Your Grace, Bishop Boris, Your Excellency, Ambassador Kravchenko, President of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Pavlo Grod, our colleagues, friends, our conference is over. I'm standing between you and the banquet, just with some observations and feelings I managed to collect and summarize while attending the debates. First of all, it was really exciting. Our conference was reached by more than 600 visitors from all over the world, including those who managed to do it in flesh. I'm really impressed with the intellectual level and openness of the debates. I believe most of us now better understand where we are with Ukrainian and Ukrainian Canadian studies. I believe we better understand the context as well. That's why the conference title sounds the text and the context of Ukrainian studies in Canada. That's what really matters. That's what's the purpose of the conference. My impression is that despite all odds, optimists prevailed over pessimists. Ще не вмерли українські студії. There were some interesting topics I'd like to dwell upon. The balance between the Ukrainian and Ukrainian-Canadian topics, our two main pillars. I do believe it is possible to develop both of them to their mutual advantage, to bridge them. Just consider such topics as work ethic, social values, political culture, cross-cultural communications, urban studies, ethnic and nationalism studies, regional and border studies, diaspora, refugees, and so on and so forth. 40 years ago, our critics pointed out that Ukrainian studies revolve around non-existent state and a nation with dubious credentials. The irony is that today, when Ukrainian political nation is a reality, when Ukrainian state does exist, I'd say that Ukrainian studies are getting important precisely because they are about a specific nation, a border nation, located in the geographical center of Europe with nested geographies and complex identities. Interdisciplinary dialogue. Dominic Carrel sounds optimistic, me too. Interesting that political scientists move to history, while historians become contemporary studies specialists and experts. Canadian and non-Canadian aspects. This conference was conducted on Canadian soil. Thus, all of our findings and debates contribute to Canadian scholarship. It will be published in Canada and became part of the Canadian humanities and social sciences. Public intellectuals and the ivory tower intellectuals. I hope Professor Magochi hasn't changed his mind today. Dear colleagues, we are all involved in one way or another. Have no illusions about that. I wish we get rid of the identity issue, memory issue, and so on and so forth. However, Ukraine is still a project in progress. It is important for those people who are discovering their Ukrainianness to understand their identity, to understand where they are and what is going on. We cannot predict the results and cannot impose our agenda on the course of events. Let us not play God. Nobody predicted the dissolution of the Soviet Union 25 years ago. Nobody was able to predict the Ukrainian-Russian war. All we can do is to keep our minds open, to keep an academic integrity, to keep our professional norms and values, and be honest and tolerant with each other. That's where I stand. By the way, I found extremely intriguing Mark von Hagen's observation about the model of a military democracy applicable to Ukraine. In this, Ukrainian and Jews do have much in common. Rory Finnan is right in drawing our attention to ethical dimension, ethical consequences of our activities. During the last 2 years, thousands of texts about Ukraine have been published in different languages. We cannot complain that Ukraine is not visible in the information space anymore. However, the issue of professional competence is coming to the fore. I feel like sometimes I'm really shocked when I see how respectable professors turn into propaganda war fighters. What's wrong with the world academia? I don't know. This is not to say that we have to discourage those who became interested in Ukrainian topics. Let us not forget about non-Ukrainians who were and are deeply involved into Ukrainian studies. To name just a few, Canadians George Simpson, Walter Kirkconnell, our colleagues David Marbles, Heather Coleman, Dominique Carrel, Americans Clarence Manning, Philip Mosley, William Chamberlain, John Armstrong, our colleagues Mark von Hagen, Hiroaki Kuromiya, and so on and so forth. Of course, they don't need to be patriotic Ukrainians. They just need to be professionals. We should be happy having all of them into Ukrainian studies. In terms of our priorities, let me assume that you have read my introduction to the commemorative issue. If not, please do, since I expressed some ideas about the future development of the Institute and my vision of Ukrainian studies and our priorities as well. Let me tell you that I'm really attracted to the think tank model, and, sorry to say, I don't believe that any new Institute of Ukrainian Studies is possible in Canada in the nearest future. If you are really interested in the future of Ukrainian studies, let us build up new endowments. Let us establish endowed chairs in the universities and do consolidate our resources, financial as well as intellectual. 35 years ago, after the Institute was established by the provincial government of Alberta, our founders decided to integrate CIUS into the University of Alberta. Our budget also became part of the university budget. I think it was the right decision. The Institute can function properly only if it's a part of the academic environment, part of the academic world. We are part of the University of Alberta. Period. Having said that, I'd like to stress that it was our community support that helped us to survive and to keep our academic identity in terms of research activities and priorities. Let me tell you that no endowment, no amount of money invested into the Institute, no matter how small it is, has been used for the purposes other than Ukrainian and Ukrainian-Canadian studies. All Ukrainian endowments in the Institute are safe. However, I do admit that we have many problems in using some of our endowments with the very specific terms of reference. We have too many restrictions to be able to operate according to our changing priorities. That is why we are well-to-do on the one hand, and we are short of money on the other hand. That's a paradox, but all what is Ukrainian is always full of paradoxes. That is why 2 of 3 of our main units, the Center for Ukrainian-Canadian Studies and ULIC, Ukrainian Language Education Center, are underfunded. We cannot afford even to hire a full-time coordinator for each of these 2 units. In terms of collaboration, I'd be ready to collaborate with any organization in Canada and worldwide on the principles of academic autonomy. If you need our knowledge, our expertise, our experience, please indicate and we would be ready to help. That's why I decided that the Institute should be presented during the Congress of Ukrainian-Canadian Congress in Regina. That's why we initiated this resolution about creating an advisory board, and I personally would be happy to join this unit. Have CIUS fulfilled its mission to become the main coordinating center for the Ukrainian and the Ukrainian-Canadian studies in Canada? That's a rhetorical question. I'd be happy to know how many centers in Ukrainian and Ukrainian-Canadian studies we really need to avoid an impression that Ukrainian studies are overrepresented. Of course, I wish the community would better informed about our activities. Let me say that within 3 years or so, we created a contemporary Ukraine studies program. 2 young Stasiuk fellows, specialists in contemporary topics, joined our institute. Two distinguished specialists, Taras Kuzyo and Bogdan Harasimil, also joined our institute. Within 1 year or so, both of them issued hundreds of interviews all over the world, different languages. To say nothing of special publications, but we produce expert knowledge, published in special journals. That's where we stand. That's our identity. We have completely reorganized our website. We have 2,000 followers acquired just within 1 year and a half. And the fact that our conference is available for those people living in Australia, in Ukraine, in United States, in Europe, it's also what we are trying to do, how to increase our visibility, how to increase our influence in terms of providing true information and producing expert knowledge and distributing expert knowledge. Canada and Ukraine. Basically, Ukraine is a teenager with all complexes and complexities related to this age. If our partners in Ukraine are ready to be treated like an adult, let us establish a new mechanism of dealing with them. Let us treat our partners in Ukraine as real partners, not just recipients of some sort of humanitarian aid. Let us support Ukrainian-based projects on the principles of open competition. We have got about 250 applications from Ukraine only within this year, which is a good sign. It's a sign that Ukrainian academic community is alive and getting maturity. Couple of words about Ukrainian studies in the University of Alberta. For now, we have 2 centers. Canadian Institute of Ukrainian Studies and the center, Cool Center for the Folklore Studies. We have 2 chairs in Ukrainian studies. We have the largest cluster of endowments in the University of Alberta. So I would say that rumors about prematurely death of Ukrainian studies in the University of Alberta are a little bit exaggerated. And last but not least, let me change a little bit this topic. We are going to transcript and publish the proceedings of the conference. Our coordinator, Susanna Lin, will contact you soon with certain requests and instructions. Please stay in touch and please feel free to submit your texts in writing anytime. The sooner the better. Once again, let me express my deep gratitude to all our participants for their hard work, to our sponsors, especially to Tovarystvo Senyorів, to our team, our volunteers who are busy right now with the banquet preparations and asked me to be as brief as possible with my concluding remarks. Thank you very much. Thank you.